Hello everyone, this is João from Salmonella Place, and today I'm going to do a biology tutorial where I'm going to discuss two very basic terms that I believe are of great importance, because whenever we are going to move on and talk about topics that are a little bit more complex, we definitely need to brush up on the basics. So a lot of you wrote on our comments that you wanted some clarification of what monomers and polymers are, and we are dedicating a tutorial on these terms. Now, let's start with polymers. What are polymers? And as you can see here in this image, we have a lot of blue balls together, and these are representing, of course, a polymer. And polymers are simply molecules that you find out there. And these molecules are comprised of thousands of parts, and these parts are called monomers. Now, keep in mind, just a little bit of word origin, that a polymer comes from the Greek word polis, which means many, and meros, which means part. So a polymer basically is a molecule that is comprised of many parts. Simple definition. Now, of course, these parts are then this blue ball that you can see here representing a monomer that also from the Greek origin, it states that mono is one and mero is part. So one part of that large molecule that we talked about, the polymer. Now the confusing part here is usually that a monomer is a molecule, and of course a molecule is comprised of atoms, and then we would say that a monomer usually is comprised of between 4 to 10 atoms, and then each molecule, each monomer or a block, let's think of a building block of a polymer, then bind to one another and form these really large molecules that you find out there known as polymers. Now, how do they get together? How do they bind to one another? Now, there are several chemical reactions out there, and these chemical reactions are then known as polymerization, or meaning that they're forming polymers. In terms of bonds that these molecules form between one another, these bonds are called, and you probably heard this from your chemistry class, these are known as covalent bonds. Now, keep in mind though, that even though these two molecules are going to come together, a binding process doesn't mean that they're just going to join the entire cells with one another and form a polymer. Usually during the reaction there is a exchange of electrons or even loss of some atoms. So one example of this, that usually two molecules come together, one will lose a hydrogen atom, and then another one will lose an hydroxyl group. And what this means is that the end result of this reaction would mean that the two molecules are then losing a H2O, or a water molecule. And this is known as then condensation reaction. Now, also keep in mind that when monomers come together, they will form change if they are forming just two bonds between each other. So they're going to form a linear structure that looks a little bit of beads on a string, or a necklace full of little pearls. If you think about these monomers that you see here as beads in a necklace. Now, if they are going to form more than two bonds, then what would happen is that they're starting to form a 3D structure. Of course, I have to give you examples of monomers and also polymers that you find out there so you can get a better idea of what these are. Now, there are man-made polymers or artificial polymers out there, and a good example of this is probably you have something that is comprised of this type of polymer, and if you think about its monomer, ethylene, and this is a simple hydrocarbon, a monomer that is produced by plants, but if you want, you can manufacture in large scales from petroleum. And then this monomer can be polymerized into a large polymer known as polyethylene, and this is what you find in plastic. Now, in terms of natural monomers, you find one within the nucleus of your cells known as the DNA, your DNA. So a DNA is a huge polymer, huge molecule that is comprised of building blocks, and the building blocks of DNA is a nucleotide. And there are we would say four different types of nucleotides depending on their basis, and the four nucleotides are thymine, adenine, guanine, and cytosine. So four main monomers, or four main building blocks that comprise DNA, or this huge polymer. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel or visit our website. And also, if you would like to spice up your scientific presentations, visit Somersault 1824 and discover their amazing and easy to use illustrations library.